I didn't know my daughter had betrayed me until I opened the wrong drawer. At first, I thought it was just another stack of her old papers, receipts, makeup boxes, things she never bothered to organize. But then I saw my own name, printed neatly on a document I had never signed. That was the moment my stomach dropped, because I realized the money she took from me was only the beginning. My daughter wasn't just stealing my pension. She was preparing to take my life away. If this story reaches you, please subscribe now, because what happened to me could happen to any parent who trusts the wrong person. My name is Eleanor. I am 69 years old, and until a few weeks ago, I believed my daughter was the safest place my heart could ever rest. I had built my entire life around her. When her father died suddenly 23 years ago, it was just the two of us in a small blue house at the edge of town. I worked full-time at the county library, shelving books and helping strangers find what they were looking for, while I quietly lost pieces of myself. I missed vacations. I skipped dinners out. I wore the same winter coat for more than a decade because every extra dollar went into raising my child. And I never complained. Every spare dollar I could save went into one quiet little account I called my safety net. That was my pension. My future. The money that would keep me alive if I ever became sick, if I ever couldn't work, if I ever became old and invisible the way so many women do. It wasn't luxury money. It was survival money. It was dignity money. It was the last thing in this world that belonged only to me. I never imagined the person who would take it would be my own daughter. It was a Tuesday morning when everything shifted. Nothing dramatic. No storm outside. No warning. Just a quiet kitchen filled with morning light. I had just paid my electric bill and out of habit, opened my bank account to make sure everything looked right. I had done this every week for years. Old people learn to be careful. We know how quickly things can slip away. At first, I thought the page hadn't loaded correctly. Then I saw the number. $37. That was all that was left. I stared at the screen waiting for it to change. It didn't. I refreshed the page. Logged out. Logged back in. Still $37. The pension deposit from the previous week was gone. The emergency savings I had built over decades were gone. Everything I had was gone. There was only one transaction listed. One clean, silent transfer. To Claire. My daughter. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even feel surprised. I just sat there, listening to the refrigerator hum and the clock tick, as something cold moved through my chest. Because when betrayal comes from your own child, it doesn't arrive like lightning. Feels more like confirmation. Claire had access to my bank account because she insisted I was too old to handle online banking. She'd set everything up for me years ago when she moved back into my house after her divorce. She told me she just wanted to help. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? I had carried her in my body. I had fed her with my hands. I had built my entire world around her happiness. I closed my laptop slowly and reached for my phone. Claire, I said when her voicemail answered, keeping my voice steady. It's Mom. Something strange happened with my bank account. Please call me back. She didn't. I called again an hour later. Still nothing. I sent a text. No reply. By the afternoon, a quiet fear had started to grow inside me. Not panic. Not hysteria. Just the heavy feeling that something was very wrong. I drove to her apartment as the sun was starting to sink. It was one of those new buildings with glass doors and shiny floors, the kind of place that makes old women like me feel invisible. I rode the elevator to her floor, my reflection staring back at me from the mirrored walls. I looked tired, smaller than I remembered. I knocked on her door. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. As I turned to leave, the door across the hall opened. A young woman peeked out holding a grocery bag. Are you looking for Claire? She asked. Yes, I said. I'm her mother. Oh, she said softly. She left 2 days ago. Went on vacation. Vacation. The word felt strange in my mouth. Vegas, I think. She was really excited. Vegas. I thanked the woman and walked back to my car in a daze. My daughter had taken my pension and gone to Las Vegas. That was when hurt turned into something else. I went home and printed every bank statement I could find. The truth was there in black and white. My money. Her account. One silent transfer. And then I did something I had never done before. I went into her bedroom. Claire still kept a room in my house, even though she mostly lived at her apartment. It was filled with her clothes, her papers, her things. I had never gone through it without her permission. Felt wrong. But she had already crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. I opened drawers. Looked through piles. I told myself I was just searching for some explanation. That's when I saw it. A red folder was tucked behind a stack of magazines. My name was written on the tab. My hands began to shake as I pulled it out and opened it. Inside were documents, legal forms, bank printouts, and something that made my stomach drop. A power of attorney. My power of attorney. With her name on it. I stood there alone in my daughter's room, the walls closing in around me, as a realization slowly settled into my bones. She hadn't just taken my money. She had been planning something far worse. And I had no idea how long she had been waiting to do it. I didn't confront Claire right away. That's the part most people don't understand when I tell them this story later. They ask me why I didn't pick up the phone and scream. Why didn't I drive straight to her apartment and demand answers? Why I didn't call the police or the bank or anyone at all. The truth is, when you realize someone you love has been lying to you for a long time, something inside you goes very quiet. It's not fear at first. It's a kind of stillness, like the moment right before a storm hits. You start replaying every conversation, every look, every small detail that didn't quite make sense. And suddenly all of it does. I sat on the edge of Claire's bed with that red folder in my lap, staring at the power of attorney document like it was written in another language. My name was printed across the top in thick black letters. Her name was listed underneath as my legal representative. The date on the bottom wasn't filled in yet, but there was a note scribbled in her handwriting in the margin. Finalize after Vegas. After Vegas. The words felt like ice against my skin. I flipped through the rest of the folder with trembling fingers. There were printouts of my bank account, notes with dates, a brochure for something called Silver Meadows Care Facility, a place for assisted living. The smiling faces on the cover looked nothing like the reality I'd heard about those places. They looked too clean, too staged, too much like people pretending to be happy. I closed the folder slowly and pressed it against my chest. My daughter had been planning to take control of my life, and she was out of town spending my money, while I was sitting here in my own house, realizing I might already be losing everything. That night I didn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to the familiar sounds of the house. The wind brushes against the windows. The old pipes are clicking. The floorboards creaked as they cooled. This house had been my home for over 40 years. I had raised my child here. I had buried my husband here. I had survived everything inside these walls. And now it felt like it was slipping out of my hands. The next morning I called the bank. The young man on the phone was polite, his voice calm and distant, like someone who had no idea how much weight he was carrying in his words. He confirmed what I already knew. The transfer had been authorized through my online banking. There was nothing they could do without proof of fraud. She's my daughter, I said quietly. I'm sorry, ma'am, he replied. If she had access, it's considered authorized. Authorized. That word felt like a slap. I hung up and sat there for a long time staring at my hands. These hands had worked for decades. They had held books, wiped tears, cooked meals, and folded laundry. And now they were shaking because the person I trusted most in the world had decided she deserved what I had earned. Claire finally called me that afternoon. Hey, Mom, she said, her voice bright and cheerful, as if nothing in the world was wrong. What's up? I almost laughed at the sound of her. She sounded relaxed. Happy. Like someone who had nothing to hide. I need to talk to you, I said. Is everything okay? She asked, and there was a hint of annoyance in her tone. My bank account is empty, I said. There was a pause. Then she sighed. Oh, that. Yeah, I meant to tell you about that. My heart dropped. You meant to tell me you took my pension? I asked. Mom, don't make it sound so dramatic, she replied. I didn't take it. I moved it. It's safer this way. You know how easy it is for seniors to get scammed. Seniors. I repeated. Don't start, she said. You know what I mean. I'm just helping you manage things. You're not good with technology. You moved all of it, I said. Every dollar I have. I needed it. she replied without hesitation. I'll pay you back. When? I asked. Soon, she said quickly. I'm just on a trip right now. I needed a break. You don't know how stressful my life has been. A trip? Where are you? I asked. Vegas, she said lightly. I told you I needed to get away. You took my retirement money to go to Las Vegas, I said. Mom, stop, she snapped. You always do this. You make everything sound so ugly. I deserve something nice for once. I closed my eyes. You took my safety, I said. You took my future. You're being selfish, she shot back. You live in that big house all alone. You have everything. I have nothing. I wanted to scream at her that it was my house, that I had built everything she had ever touched. But I didn't. I just listened. I'll talk to you when I get back, she said. We'll sort it out. Don't worry so much. You're not going anywhere. Not going anywhere. Those words stayed with me long after she hung up. That evening, I went back into her room and opened the red folder again. This time I read everything carefully. The Silver Meadows brochure had notes scribbled on it. Room numbers. Costs. A checkmark next to Medicaid accepted. My stomach turned. There were also emails printed out. Conversations between Claire and someone at the care facility. My name was mentioned more than once. So was the phrase early cognitive decline. I sat down heavily on the bed. She was telling people I was losing my mind. That was when I understood something that made my blood run cold. This wasn't about helping me. This was about replacing me. If she could convince people I wasn't capable of making my own decisions, she could take everything. My house. My money. My life. And I would be powerless to stop it. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I made a decision. If my daughter thought I was weak, I would let her keep thinking that. Because sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one who stays quiet and watches. After I hung up the phone with Claire, I sat alone in my kitchen for a long time, staring at the faint cracks in the old wooden table. I had eaten every meal at that table for over 40 years. I had cut birthday cakes there. I had helped with homework there. I had held my husband's hand there when the cancer finally took him. It had always been a place of truth. Now it felt like the only thing left in life that hadn't lied to me. I didn't feel angry yet. I felt something colder and more dangerous. Clarity. I went back to Claire's room and spread the contents of the red folder across her bed. Papers slid over the wrinkled sheets. Brochures. Bank printouts. Notes in her handwriting. It looked less like a daughter's things and more like the evidence board of a crime. Silver Meadows Care Facility. Power of attorney. Cognitive evaluation. My name. I picked up one of the printed emails and read it slowly, forcing myself not to skip a single word. Hello, this is Claire Mercer. I'm writing about my mother, Eleanor Mercer. She is showing early signs of memory decline. We will be scheduling a formal evaluation soon. We're looking for availability in late November. Late November. That was less than 3 weeks away. I felt dizzy. She had gathered all the documents and put them back in the red folder. Then I hid it somewhere she would never think to look. In the freezer. Under a bag of frozen peas. Planning this for longer than I wanted to admit. Every time she'd reminded me to take my pills. Every time she'd commented on my forgetfulness. Every time she'd offered to handle things for me. It hadn't been kindness. It had been prepared. I sat down on the bed and pressed my hand to my chest until the trembling stopped. I was old, yes. My knees ached. My eyesight wasn't what it used to be. But my mind was still sharp. And she was counting on me being too frightened or confused to fight back. I wouldn't give her that. That night I began writing things down. Dates. Times. What she'd said. What she'd done. Every strange comment. Every financial change. I went through old emails. Old texts. Old bank statements. I printed everything. By midnight, I had a small stack of paper on my kitchen table. It wasn't just a story anymore. It was a pattern. The next morning I made calls. Not to Claire. To the doctor she had mentioned in her notes. The receptionist was cheerful, her voice light. Yes, we do have an appointment scheduled for Eleanor Mercer next Thursday. For what? I asked. A cognitive evaluation. I closed my eyes. Please cancel it, I said. And make a note in my file that I did not authorize it. There was a pause. Of course, ma'am. That small victory made me feel something I hadn't felt in days. Power. Then I called a lawyer. I didn't tell them everything. Not yet. I just asked questions. What did a power of attorney mean? How could someone get one? What rights did a daughter have over her mother? The answers were terrifying. If Claire got that document signed, she could do almost anything. Sell my house. Move me. Control my money. Even make medical decisions for me. All she needed was a doctor to say I wasn't competent. That was her plan. I didn't tell her I knew. I let her keep talking to me the way she always did when she called from Vegas. Bright. Careless. Self-centered. I got a spa treatment today, she said one afternoon. It was amazing. You'd love it. I said nothing. Mom? Are you there? Yes, I replied softly. You're so quiet lately. Are you okay? I'm fine, I said. And I was telling the truth, because I wasn't panicking anymore. I was preparing. Sometimes the safest place to hide something is the last place anyone ever checks. When Claire told me she was coming home, I felt ready. She arrived 3 days later, tanned and smiling, dragging her expensive suitcase behind her. Mom, she said brightly. You look tired. I am, I replied. She walked past me into the kitchen. I'm starving. Did you go grocery shopping while I was gone? I watched her closely. The way she moved through my house was like it already belonged to her. The way she barely looked at me. Yes, I said. She smiled. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I smiled too. Because she had no idea what was waiting for her. Claire moved through my kitchen like a guest who had overstayed her welcome but still believed she owned the place. She tossed her purse on the counter, kicked off her shoes, and opened the refrigerator without even looking at me. Wow, she said. You actually went shopping. I didn't expect that. I leaned against the door frame and watched her. She didn't see me. Not really. She never had. To her I was background noise. A fixture. Something that had always been there and always would be. Don't just stand there, Mom, she said. Grab me a plate. I'm starving. I didn't move. Help yourself, I replied quietly. She rolled her eyes and began pulling things out of the refrigerator. I had carefully arranged. Items she didn't recognize. Her brow furrowed. What is all this? She asked. Dinner, I said. She laughed. You never buy stuff like this. I said nothing. She turned, finally really looking at me. What's wrong with you? Nothing, I said. I'm just tired. She shrugged and went back to the fridge. That was when I saw it. A flicker of unease crossed her face. Why is there so much? She asked. Did someone give this to you? I did, I said. With what money? She asked too quickly. I met her eyes. Mine. She went still. What do you mean? I mean I sold something, I replied calmly. Her lips parted slightly. What did you sell? Things I didn't need anymore. The silence between us felt heavy. You didn't sell the house, did you? She asked. I smiled faintly. Not yet. That was the moment her confidence cracked. She shut the refrigerator door slowly, as if the things inside it suddenly frightened her. Mom, she said, forcing a laugh. You're being weird. What's going on? I walked to the table and sat down. Sit with me. I'm hungry, she snapped. Sit, I repeated. Something in my voice made her obey. She pulled out a chair and sat across from me, crossing her arms. This is ridiculous. Do you remember when you were little? I said. And you used to hide things in your room? Candy. Notes. Toys you weren't supposed to have. She frowned. What does that have to do with anything? You were never very good at hiding things, I said gently. Her face changed. Just a little. But I saw it. I went into your room while you were gone, I continued. You went through my stuff? She snapped. How dare you? I found something, I said. Her eyes flicked toward the hallway. What did you find? A red folder. The color drained from her face. That was private, she whispered. So was my bank account, I replied. She stood abruptly. You had no right. Sit, I said again. She did. I know about Silver Meadows, I said. Her mouth opened then closed. I know about the power of attorney. I know about the doctor's appointment. I know about what you planned to do to me. She shook her head. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, I said. You were going to make me disappear. That's not true, she insisted. I was trying to help you. You're getting old, Mom. You forget things. You need someone to take care of you. I needed you to love me, I said quietly. Not to replace me. Tears filled her eyes, but I didn't know if they were real. You're overreacting, she said. I just wanted to make things easier for both of us. By taking my money and planning to lock me away? I asked. She had no answer. I reached into my sweater pocket and pulled out the red folder. I placed it on the table between us. Everything you need to know is right here, I said. She stared at it like it was a snake. You shouldn't have that, she whispered. Neither should you, I replied. Her hands trembled as she reached for it. Don't, I said. She froze. For the first time in her life, she was afraid of me. Claire sat across from me, staring at the red folder as if it might suddenly leap off the table and bite her. Her skin, still warm and golden from the Vegas sun, had gone pale beneath the makeup she always wore so carefully. For the first time since she had walked back into my house, she wasn't in control of the room. Mom, she said slowly, carefully, like she was speaking to a frightened animal. Let's just calm down. We don't need to make this a big thing. I folded my hands on the table. They were steady now. I was surprised by that. It already is a big thing, I replied. You just didn't expect me to find out. She let out a breath that sounded more like a sigh of irritation than fear. You don't understand how hard things have been for me. You've always had stability. A house. Pension. I've had nothing. You had a childhood, I said. You had college. You had my support every time you fell. That's nothing. She shook her head. You don't get it. The world isn't kind to people like me. I needed a head start. And you decided my life was your head start, I said quietly. Her lips pressed together. You weren't using the money. The words hit harder than anything else she had said. I wasn't using it, I repeated. No, she said. You just let it sit there. You live like a monk. You don't travel. You don't go out. You don't enjoy anything. So what difference does it make? The difference, I said, is that it was mine. She looked away. I was going to put you somewhere nice, she muttered. Silver Meadows? I asked. With the peeling paint and the understaffed night shift? That's not fair, she snapped. I didn't know it was that bad. You didn't care, I replied. Her eyes filled with tears. I was scared. So was I said. But I didn't steal from you. The silence between us felt thick and heavy. I slid the red folder closer to myself and opened it. Do you want to see what scared me? I asked. She swallowed. I already know what's in there. I don't think you do, I said. I took out the printed email from Silver Meadows and held it up. This is your message to them. You told them I had early cognitive decline. That was just to get them to hold a spot, she protested. It didn't mean anything. It meant everything, I said. You were telling strangers that I wasn't capable of making my own decisions. I pulled out the power of attorney document. And this. You were going to have me sign this without telling me what it really was. I was going to explain it, she said weakly. When? I asked. After Vegas? After the doctor you booked said I wasn't fit. She didn't answer. I reached into my bag and pulled out another paper. What's that? She asked. Bank statements, I said. The ones you didn't think I'd ever look at. Her jaw tightened. You took every dollar I had, I continued. Then you used it to go on vacation. I needed to get away, she whispered. I needed to eat, I replied. That was when she started to cry. Real tears this time. Big, ugly sobs that shook her shoulders. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she said. I just wanted things to be easier. For you, I said. She nodded. There was a knock at the door. We both froze. I stood and went to open it. A man in a neat jacket stood on my porch holding a briefcase. Mrs. Mercer? He asked. I'm from the bank. You called about a suspicious transfer. Claire gasped. Yes, I said. Please come in. He walked into the kitchen, his eyes taking in the scene. I reviewed your account, he said. And this transfer should not have been authorized. Claire stood up. That's not true. It is, he replied calmly. Your mother never signed the documents required to move that amount of money. Claire looked at me in horror. I think we should correct that, I said. She sank back into her chair. The man from the bank sat down at my kitchen table as if he had been there 100 times before. He was calm, neat, and professional. Claire was not in that moment. I'll need a few minutes to make some calls, he said. But I can already tell you this transfer will be reversed. It was not legally authorized. Claire's breath caught in her throat. You can't do that, she said weakly. It's my mother's money. She told me I could use it. No, the man replied gently. She gave you access to help her, not to empty her account. I felt something loosen in my chest. Not triumph. Not revenge. Just relief. Claire stared at me, eyes wide and glassy. Mom, please, she whispered. You don't understand. If you take that money back, I'll have nothing. You already left me with nothing, I said quietly. She stood up, pacing the kitchen like a trapped animal. I was going to take care of you. You don't know what it's like out there. It's hard. It's expensive. I was just trying to survive. So was I replied. The bank representative stepped aside to make a call. Claire turned back to me, desperation rising in her voice. You're really going to do this? You're going to destroy your own daughter. I'm not destroying you, I said. I'm saving myself. She sank back into the chair, her shoulders shaking. For a moment she looked like the little girl she used to be, the one who cried when she scraped her knee, the one who held my hand when she was afraid of the dark. And then I remembered the red folder, the emails, the care facility, the plan to erase me. You don't get to hurt me just because you're afraid, I said. The bankman returned. The funds will be restored by tomorrow morning, he said. We'll also be changing the account access so no one can move money without your direct approval. I nodded. Thank you. Claire stared at him. This isn't fair. He stood. Ma'am, what you did was illegal. That word finally broke something in her. You're all against me, she cried. Everyone always is. No, I said softly. You did this to yourself. When the bankman left, the house fell silent again. Claire stood near the door, her face hollow. What am I supposed to do now? She asked. That's not my responsibility anymore, I said. She picked up her purse slowly. You'll regret this. I regret not protecting myself sooner, I replied. She left without another word. The next morning my bank account was whole again. I sat at my kitchen table, sunlight warming my hands, and for the first time in weeks I felt safe. I changed my will. I changed my locks. I changed my life. I didn't throw my daughter away. I simply stopped letting her throw me away. And that, I learned, was the most powerful thing an old woman could ever do. If this story moved you, tell me in the comments where you're listening from. And remember, it's never too late to choose yourself.